So many of us are seeking a deeper understanding of the physical and unseen world around us, while trying to connect and understand ourselves. Seeking enlightenment, understanding of the paranormal, holistic options, whole body healing, the metaphysical, and finding a personal connection to a higher consciousness. Together, we will journey and seek understanding of our own soul's fulfillment and that which lies beyond the veil. If you found yourself here, trust this is the next step in your spiritual journey. Welcome to Soul Flight.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Soul Flight. This is our first show since transitioning into 2024, and I'm really glad to have everybody here. And I hope the year has been good to you so far. A lot of people have been talking about those resolutions. I personally am not a resolution maker. I just believe in making those changes every day, little steps, because it's hard. I think when we make those resolutions, sometimes we come down on ourselves if we are 30 minutes into those resolutions and then eat that slice of pie, or we get in and then we feel like we can't restart. So I just say make healthy habits every day, work on that step by step, and be graceful with yourself. Before I get to today's guest, who I am very excited and honored to have on, I wanted to pull a card because I thought, you know what? We're starting out. Hi, Jamie. I'm so glad that you're here. Oh, it's supper time, but thank you. I appreciate it. Stopping in. Catch us later. Download the podcast. You can always listen later. I wanted to start out with some kind of message from Spirit and just what do we need to know? What do you guys need to hear going into 2024? What's some inspiration or something that they can give to you? Oh, hi, beautiful yourself, Ellie. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad you're here. So I actually pulled a postcard from Spirit, and I love these because it's just little encouragement, little glimpses sometimes that we need. And so this is the one that I pulled, and I love this because it says, "You are magic." And I think we forget that. We forget that we are the magic that makes all of this up, and that really lends to that being graceful with yourself. So, dearest you, there are times when loss is a part of life. Sometimes a loss is welcome, like when you leave a situation not in alignment with your highest good. Sometimes a loss is sudden and painful, like when a loved one crosses over to our dimension. Regardless of the nature of the loss and your control over it, your experience is asking to be acknowledged. Tears are necessary, as is grief. When you repress the natural expression of loss and try to move on too quickly, the unprocessed pain haunts you in destructive ways. We don't want that for you. Instead, let your heart break open wide, feel the loss, and integrate it. See the beauty that was, the lessons learned, and know that as you let go of what has passed, even more of you remains. It gets better, we promise. Your heart expands with more compassion for the world than ever before. Love heals all. We are loving you, sending your love, always and forever. So I think that's a great message. We sometimes we think of grief as this physical thing, or loss as this physical thing, but there's so many, even as you're making resolutions and you're grieving and letting go of things. So please really take that to heart. Spirit is here for you. Now, the fun stuff. I am so excited to welcome Mel and Gail. They are joining us all the way from Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is very exciting to me. And they are part of a group called Lucky Paranormal, right? Is it lucky to be paranormal? I don't know. We're going to talk about that, but I'm very excited to have them join us. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. How are the two of you?
Good. Very
That's
good.
awesome.
Yes.
We had met way back when at the Paracon. You guys happened to wander past my booth, and I probably berated you to get you to stop. Was like, hey, sign up, come talk to me, and it was nice networking though, which I think was such a fun part of that Paracon, of getting to network and meet wonderful people like yourselves. Tell us a little bit, about yourselves, but also what is Lucky Paranormal?
Sure.
That's a lot.
Sure. Okay, we'll start with the name, Lucky Paranormal.
Okay.
A number of years ago, we had a little yellow bird. She was the only one that hatched out of her eggs.
Okay.
So she was lucky to be alive.
Oh, I
Um,
get it. I love it.
right before she passed away, we started Lucky Paranormal. Yeah,
Wow.
so now it's in memory of our bird Lucky.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been doing it for, I guess, almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was lovely to meet you at the Paracon. We've been going to different Paracons in the States, and I think that Paracons are really awesome because we get to meet everybody and
Right.
see, and every year we get to see the same people, and it's kind of like a really nice, fun community.
Yeah,
Yes.
especially the Michigan one.
Yeah.
It's like we actually met a team member of ours in
Okay.
Michigan at
Oh,
the
that's great.
Paracon.
I love it. That's crazy. Yeah.
We're like, where are you from? She's like, Thunder Bay. I'm like, really?
You're right. You're
I'm
like, wait a minute.
I'm like, you want to join our team? She's like, absolutely. I'm like, okay.
That's
Carol, you're
amazing.
on.
But that's part of what that is, that community and bringing people together to collaborate
Yes.
in non-judgmental and just such open forums. It's amazing.
Yeah. So we've been doing a lot of things.
A little bit of investigating. It is winter now. It has
Yes.
officially came. So it's tricky. It's hard to get out, right? We have to find indoor locations, which can be
Yes.
difficult.
And a lot of times, I always laugh because, as a member of an investigative team too, we do, stuff more investigating during this time of the year because during the summer they're doing more cryptids and those kinds of things. And so we'll get a call like, hey, we're going to go research here. And I've learned, like, my first question is there heat? Like, is there going to be heat? You say we're going to a building, but is heat guaranteed? Like, this is what I need to know. Because you're right. A lot of times those places you want to get into, they're great, but there's no heat.
Yes, and they can be dark and dingy, and we've been in basements and all kinds of kind of small confined spaces.
Right.
Sitting there and trying to connect and speak with spirits. So I think that's what this work is really fascinating is really trying to reach out and see if there is something on the other side and if they're willing to talk to us. So I think that's the main reason we do it. We don't take it too seriously. We have a lot of fun with it. But we've been busy doing that as well. And we have some things lined up this year too. So we're looking forward to it.
Sound very exciting. And I think let's just talk about them now because why wait? Let's just spring it out there. And when you guys are telling me, I'm like, what else do you have up your sleeve? Because it sounds very much like a lot of fun, but that spirit of collaboration and getting together is really what you're looking to foster and continue in your area. So let's just tell everybody, rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, okay. So we are organizing the Lake Superior Paranormal Convention. It's happening in October. So October 4th, 5th, and 6th, it's in Thunder Bay, and we have many speakers coming up from all over Canada, Ontario, and also the States. So we're pretty excited about it. It's over 3 days. So it'll be a kickoff party on the Friday, October 4th. And then all-day speakers, workshops, and
an investigation that night.
Yeah, the investigation that night. Yeah, and then on Sunday we have Spirits and Sweets, it's called.
Yeah.
So it's a gallery meeting with one of our friends who's a psychic medium.
Oh, I love that. And so how do people find out information? If they do still have vendor spots open, or are you just, where do people find out about tickets or those kinds of things?
So we just started. And so you go to our website and you can do the vendor application, but the tickets aren't for sale quite yet. By the end of the month, it'll all be ironed out. Yeah. So that's Lake Superior Paracon.
Yeah, LakeSuperiorParacon.com.
Okay, so I'm going to type that in there. So Lake Superior
Paracon.com.
Paracon.com. All right, I'm going to get that in there for everybody because I think that that's just fun. You know, when you hear more about these things popping up, it allows people to collaborate in different areas, you know, and so I like that. What drew you, you know, even to take on something like a Paracon? That's a big deal. Or to step into saying, hey, you know what? Because most people, I think overall, most people that you talk to can say, you know what, I've had some explained things happen to me. They may not call it paranormal, but they say that was a little strange, but I'm just going to keep going on with my day. Not many of us say that was really fucking weird. I want to know what that was. You know, not many of us do that. So what made you take that step into wanting to understand and explore what happens after we don't have our bodies?
So when I was around 20, I started kind of investigating a little bit on and off, and it was like just for fun.
Right.
And then in 2019, my mom passed away,
Okay.
and I was like, okay, why is my mom like? I could feel my mom, I could see my mom, I could smell my
Right.
mom. I'm like, okay, my mom's still here. I'm like,
Yeah.
how many other people are here, and
Right.
who can I talk to, and who wants to talk to me? And it sort of snowballed from there.
I like
And the
that.
Paracon was just like this tiny little idea we had, and we just chit chatted, haha, that would be fun.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we started booking things and asking people to come, and they're saying yes. And we're like, oh, this is a thing
yeah.
now.
Right. I love, you're like, oh, you know, that's that exciting moment when you know, you're working on those things, but then people start saying yes. And it moves from exciting to, like you said, oh, all right, now we're doing this. We're doing
This
this.
is really happening.
Yes.
But and please, as you get more information and links, be sure to share them over, because I would love to share them out to the platform and the community as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
Oh,
That's great.
absolutely. So when you're investigating, do you strictly, you know, just go out and explore, or do you go in and help people that might be dealing with some paranormal things, or kind of both?
We haven't really done too many house investigations.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done a lot of like local businesses in town.
Okay.
Yeah, usually it's like when we're just chit chatting with people, they always open up and tell us their ghost stories or their
Right.
experiences that they've had in certain locations, and that's usually when we're like, well, we could probably come and look at the location and maybe dig
Right.
up some history. So that's sort of where we kind of fit in when
Okay.
someone's wondering, like, who is there, why are they there, why is this happening to me? And so we go into the building, or we have done a few people's houses, but we go in for free, and we just sort of like see if anybody's there and ask questions, and see if we catch anything on video or on the audio. And that's sort of where what we've been doing so far is just
Right.
having fun and just seeing what's out there.
Well, and I love how, even in talking to you though, it's, you know, you're saying, and what I hear is we go in and we see if anyone is there. Hi, Michael. Thank you for tuning in. It's not ghost, or it's not spirit. So to me, it feels very respectful, you know, like, hey, we're realizing just because this energy doesn't have a body anymore, we're coming in with that respect for that energy.
Yeah.
And we did.
Go ahead.
We did go to investigate a very dingy basement in a building, and it was very creepy and like water dripping and everything.
Oh,
And
like the whole ambiance of creepy.
And next thing, I'm like, who's here? And on the EVP, you get mums. I'm like,
Oh,
my mums. I'm like, what's your name? Because like, you're just kidding, right? What's your name?
Yeah.
And then it yells mom's name, and I was like, oh,
wow.
this is like, that's a moment, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And that
And,
makes it all worth it.
It is.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know, you know, and I still consider myself very novice in all of this too. And I was actually with my own, you know, group of friends, and just, we had some equipment, and, you know, we're kind of just testing it out, and we had gone to a location, and, you know, and I hate to say, because I'm so skeptical, right? And people are like, how can you be skeptical? You literally communicate with dead people. And I'm like, I know, but I'm really skeptical. And I'm like, but when you get that like hardcore, like, how do you deny this? it still blows my mind. And I'd imagine that that's how it is for the two of you.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it also, like, the question that comes to my mind is, my mom is in a dingy basement. Is spirits following me, or is the place haunted? Is that spirit attached to something in the building, or is it attached to somebody who is already there? Do they know we're going there so they can communicate? So all these questions come up, and I think that's where we're trying to find some answers or some clarification. Maybe we'll never know, but it's a lot of fun trying to find out.
It is. And I know for myself, and I've had this experience as a medium working within a group, going to a location and connecting with whatever is contained where I'm at within the walls of where I am. But then a lot of times I do have people come through for team members too, because they know you're coming. Once you make that connection with the universe of I'm going to be there, they know. They're like, this is my chance. I'm going to hop over there and be like, hey. So I think that's a great point, because I think a lot of investigators see that. Sometimes it's people that don't necessarily belong in that scenario stepping in because they have something to say.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Spooky Dookie's Reviews says, my wife and I have been residents of Menominee for the past 4 years. I help do restoration work on the Menominee Opera House. We personally believe that there's absolutely paranormal experiences there. Yeah. And so as and Michael says he's a huge skeptic as well, which I know he is. How would you say, because I always try, even when I catch evidence, right? Like I try to rule out. So how do you go back, when you're reviewing your evidence? Because a lot of people, I don't think people realize how a lot of investigators will really try to disprove what they caught for that genuineness of all of that. How do you go through that? What is your process?
So I will go through the video and I will watch it all through, and I will mark different spots when I hear things or see things. Then it goes through Gail's eyes, and she does the same thing, and then I go through it again, and then she goes through it again.
And then we'll send it to other people.
We send it to other people in the group, and we're like, hey, what do you hear here? And the last time we were at a restaurant, and the tripwire went off. So I saw the tripwire go off, and I was like, whoa, that awesome evidence. And then my team is like, but did you see the spirit at the door?
There was a bell.
I'm like, what? Yeah. I missed it, and they caught it.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
The more eyes, the better.
Yeah.
The more ears, the better.
Absolutely. Because I think, even in reviewing evidence, it's hard to keep your mind completely blank and not be looking for specific things and be looking at the whole big picture. So I like, that process. What, and I'm sure you get this question a lot too, because I know I deal with it a lot. I think a lot of people in this field talking about negative entities, talking about, those kinds of things. What is your approach, or, I guess your personal perspective, and how do you educate people about those types of things?
I don't think it happens as frequently as people think it does if you don't invite it in, right?
Correct.
I'm very careful on who I'm going to communicate with when I'm in a location, just because I don't have a lot of experience with negative entities, and I would hate for something to happen. Right. We did have a pretty crazy experience with a negative entity in Hamilton, Ontario. And yet we did poke, and we made a joke that they didn't think was funny.
Okay.
Yeah, and so there were some consequences there.
Right. I like that. And I like how you say that, though, because I'm glad you got us live too, Anne. Thank you for tuning in. How, and my kids will even ask, like, because you see all these shows, and so many things are brought in as being these horrible negative entities that are going to like suck you into a dimension. Hi, Michelle. Thank you for tuning in. I'm so glad you're here. But a lot of times, they're people. Like, maybe in life, that person didn't like those kinds of jokes, or that person had an experience that found that distasteful. And, so I always tell people, we have people in real life that aren't kind or can be flippant. Why should spirit be any different?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is like our process too, we try to have a good intention when we go into buildings
I love
or
that.
any kind of haunted location. So we always have that intention that, you know, we're going in a loving way, in a good way, and hope that whoever we do communicate with, they're also in a good way or
respectful of each other.
Respectful of each other. So that's sort of our intent when we go into these different situations.
And we often just ask, like, do you want to talk to us? Because if you don't, then just, we don't need to talk, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I like, you know, when you're able to go in, and a lot of times I think there's different approaches, right, to paranormal investigating. Some people are in it for what I call that boo factor, right? They're in it for that boo factor. They're in it for that, oh crap, kind of feeling. And, you know, but then I feel like there's people that are in it to see what's really going on, you know, that education, that wanting to understand, that wanting to know the stories, right?
Right.
And I have found, like you said, setting those intentions, just going in, you know, not doing so much residential work, but just going in and investigating a location, I often will come upon a lot of spirits that usually are missed because it's not the boo factor. They're more quiet. They're more wanting to have a conversation. And so that I like that you guys have, you know, what sounds like a very similar approach of, hey, I'm here. I'm not here to be scared. This is why I'm here. Do you want to talk to me? Do you want to tell me your story?
Yeah. And I think that could be a lot of spirit, why they can communicate with us. Because we're wondering about the story. Why are they talking to us in this particular location? What is the history? Do these names match up to any of the history that we can find out? So I think a lot of those questions, I think that's why we're successful when we do our investigations.
Absolutely. And, you know, Spooky, he agrees. He says being able to have an open mind, yet collective scientific documentation approach is paramount. This is how information is preserved, you know, and I agree. So we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want you to think about, over the break, what has kind of been a aha moment, I guess, or like a highlight of that investigating that really, you know, because we all have those little moments that, and sometimes they're not even huge moments, but it's really just moments that stick with us with investigating. And so we'll talk about some of your experiences when we come back. And we'll be back, everybody, in about 2 minutes. We'll be right back.
Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, spirits, and the metaphysical? How about Mothman, Bigfoot, and other cryptids? What about UFOs, UAPs, and other anomalous phenomenon? Then you need to check out Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. We have all that and more. Watch our series, Cap's Road Trip, where we travel across the U.S. in search of these phenomena and bring you not only the history of these locations, events, and encounters, but evidence that we capture along the way. Alongside our team of researchers and investigators, you never know who will be joining in on the investigations. Are you interested in Bigfoot in Upper Michigan? Check out Finding Heighten, a series documenting the Sasquatch activity on a very special 80-acre property just outside of Menominee that has been a hotspot since 2012. Want even more? Check out our podcasts. Whispers from the Dark is the official podcast of Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society and brings you interviews with the top names in the field of paranormal to cryptids and more. Hear witnesses' accounts and go in depth with the CAPS team to hear more about our ongoing research. Are you more into cryptids? Find links to our all cryptid show, Monsters on the Edge, on the Untold Radio Network. If you're into spooky, subscribe now and you won't miss a minute of our brand new series coming soon, Spirits of Macville. Follow along as we uncover the haunted history dating back to 1877 of a very well-known location you may have never guessed would be haunted. Head on over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button, and you won't miss a minute.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. If you are just tuning in, you've missed a really fun conversation. Mel and Gail are here joining us from Lucky Paranormal, all the way from Ontario, Thunder Bay. So I really appreciate them stopping in and talking to us. And we're coming into talking about those outstanding moments, when you're in the field and you're investigating. Tell us a little bit about some of your experiences.
One of my most, how would I explain it? Like, significant.
Right.
we have so many experiences. It's amazing.
Yeah.
One of the most significant is we were at a local cemetery and we had the spirit box on, and it kept saying
Okay.
Steve. I was like, who's Steve? What's going on with Steve?
Right.
And I don't normally get information, but I was gifted the information that Steve is terrified to go to hell because he did things that were bad.
Wow.
So I proceeded to talk to the air. I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, Steve, it's okay. You're not going to hell. Your mistakes, they're forgiven. You can go.
Right.
And then we kept talking to him. And then you can hear a lady's voice on the spirit box go, Steve, I'm in the back.
Wow.
And then we wait.
I'm getting goosebumps.
And then I'm like, Steve, and nothing. No response after that the whole night.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and you could feel the energy. Like when he left, you could just feel it. I was like, okay, this is new. And that is so amazing.
But that's a great point, because I know in my experiences too, you can, like you said, you're having those conversations. However, you're doing it with the spirit box. I like to use dowsing rods sometimes, or myself as a tool, but you can tell when nobody's there to talk to you, and people ask me, they're like, well, how do you know that? But if you think about, if you're sitting in a room with your back towards the door and your spouse or whoever, a friend, a child, your pet walks into that room, you don't have to see them, but you can feel that energy. And it's, to me, very similar when I'm connecting and investigating. You can feel that energy leave the space. So I like that you discuss that. And what about you? You've got to have one too in your back pocket of a fun experience.
Yeah, I do actually. We were heading down to I can't remember.
Indianapolis. The Rhodes House.
Yeah, we were heading down to, it was called the Rhodes House. And on the way, we were going through the state of Illinois, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we were going down through Illinois, and we were looking on different haunted locations because, we're always interested in
Absolutely.
Of course. So we're looking at haunted places, and we come across the old Juliet prison.
Yes.
And we're like, hey, we should just do a little stop in the morning on our way there. So we headed there, and we started talking to the owners, or like the people who are making sure that everything's running smoothly. It's right now, it's like you can do self-guided tours and that, right? So it was open, and we're like, hey, do you guys mind if we do some investigating? Just, we'll be quiet, we won't bother anybody. And she said, oh, absolutely. Every time I go into the prison to open up the doors, she gets catcalled by the spirit. Like she can hear them talking to her, and I said, okay, well, that's really interesting. So we went down to the cells, and nobody was around.
But even before we even got to the cells, we were walking through the basketball court.
Like as soon as we got in there, walking through the basketball court, it sounded like someone was walking behind us. Turn, nobody there. Like, okay, so we started exploring a little bit. We were the only people in the place. It was fairly early in the morning. So then we went into the East Cell block, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we're asking questions, and we're getting quite a lot of activity on, I think, what was it? The
spirit box.
It was on the spirit box, and they were like answering direct questions and clear answers. So it was really incredible. And not only that, it was more like sentences, which you don't normally
No, you
hear.
don't. Yeah.
Sometimes you get one word and you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense, but it may not be. But these were like sentences that they were responding to. So we went into one of the cells, and we were getting quite a bit of activity. And then in the distance, we could hear more people. And Mel was like, oh man, we got to stop because there's people coming. And I'm filming because I'm usually the one behind the camera filming everything. And I could feel like air on my ear and a man's voice right by my ear. And he was like, oh, like just like such as like, oh, like so disappointed, you know, that we had to stop and leave. And so that really kind of frightened me actually. And I took off.
I can imagine. It's startling, you know. It is startling at times. Absolutely.
So that's one experience that I will never forget, because it was like the spirit was right there and I could feel him, like almost his breath on my ear.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's interesting because for me, when I look at when I was just very novice and like, oh, let's, this, I've dealt with this all my life now. Let's try to understand. Let's go and hear other people's stories. And so I went with some of my friends and acquaintances to Edinburgh Manor, and we had gone there. And so we got there, and we're not even like in the building yet, and the equipment in my side bag turns on, like my spirit box just starts going off, and I'm like, well, this is going to be interesting, and I kind of pass it off because I don't want to get in that mindset, before I go into a building. And so one of the people I was with was trying to figure out, because the door was locked and where the caretaker was. And so they were walking around trying to find how to get in to talk to the caretaker. And I'm standing there talking to other people. And I see this man. He was, I can still see him. He was a thin man. He had on overalls and work boots and a dirtier shirt and a hat, like he had been outside all day, like almost like a field hat, kind of to keep the sun off of him, kind of hunched up shoulders, walking up over the hill towards the back of the building. And I'm like, oh, I said, that must be the caretaker. And the two people I was with kind of looked at me, and they looked over, and I'm like, well, let's go see if he found her. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, the man that he just walked right there, guys. And they're like, and I was like, oh, it's going to be a night. But that is probably one of my most profound, because it was so physical to me. Yeah. Like I fully expected to go around the back of the building and see this man that I thought was a caretaker talking to the other person we were with.
Wow.
We actually had a similar experience. We went to an open house.
Oh.
So we go to the open house, and you get the creep vibe as soon as you walk in.
This was before we started.
We weren't even doing paranormal stuff.
We weren't even.
So we both walk into the bedroom. We look at each other. We both leave.
Right.
And I'm like, did you see something? And Gail explained to a T the same man that I saw trying to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Wow.
We left quickly. We're like, this house is not for us.
Right. And it's funny that you say that, because people always talk about, oh, go to a haunted place. And I'm like, find me a place that isn't, right? Everything has history. Yeah. And so, but when we were looking at buying houses, and we only had our oldest child at the time, and they were just a baby on my hip, and we'd go look at houses, and my husband would say, well, what do you think about this one? And I'm like, no, and he'd be like, well, why? And I'd be like, well, it felt really crowded and this and this. And then he'd go do some digging, and he's like, yeah, you're right. He goes, I looked it up. It used to be a funeral home. I'm like, oh no, like, can't do it. And, just things like that. But, listening to the both of you talking about those vibes, how much do you work on your own intuitiveness? Or do you still pretend that you aren't intuitive?
Yeah, I pretend I'm not. We did we did a whole pendulum session at a restaurant, and I got all of these letters and numbers and words and everything, and I'm like, this, whatever, it's not true. One of the girls, Carol, in our team, went and researched all this information that we got through the session, and there was a whole story.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe I could use a pendulum.
Right. You're like, oh, maybe I got something a little extra going on.
Yeah, maybe.
Because, not many people, I'm just going to throw it out there, not many people go looking for houses and see people that aren't there in
Right.
rooms. I'm just gonna throw that out there. It's not.
the same
I mean,
time.
in my
Right.
world, it's normal with my friends, but I'm just saying, most people,
Yeah.
it's not. So I love that.
We
But
usually
that's
get a
you know
bit of
that's a whole. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, it's like, I guess I just feel like, oh, it's just a bit of a hunch, like I'll go
Right.
into a room and you can kind of feel the energy in that room,
Oh,
but
sure.
you almost like, I don't know, you almost don't trust yourself
Well,
until
but
you.
that's part of the process, and I know, like, even for myself, I'm like, no, everybody, but when you think about it, everybody's intuitive,
Right.
but to different degrees, but we pass it off as a hunch. We pass it off on, oh, I just knew. I just had a gut feeling. I
Yes.
just felt this way, or, oh, it was creepy. It's all
So,
intuitiveness. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
You just
So
gotta learn to trust it.
it's true.
recently we rented a space for both of our businesses. I'm a
Nice.
reflexologist. I was
I love
working.
it.
The girl I was working on is like, "Do you realize you have a watcher behind you?" I'm like, "Ah," because I could feel him. I felt him for
Right.
weeks before, and
Yeah.
then she
I
said
agree.
it. I'm like, I can't deny he's in here anymore. We go to the bathroom, the faucet's on when I come out to wash my hands, the
I know.
doors slam. As we're talking to you, I can hear like some kind of movement upstairs, but there's
Right.
nobody above us.
Yeah.
Like, wow, we weren't
Yeah.
looking for it.
No,
This is where we ended up.
right. But that could tie in so many other things from that paranormal aspect, and maybe educating and teaching other people to investigate. But I also, kind of sidestepping and going off my own hunches. I think spirit's bringing both of you to a point where you can't keep ignoring
Right.
forever. You're eventually going to have to give and be like, all right, I've been there. I get it. Like, even, not long before I had met you guys at the Paracon, I was still working under a pseudonym and had just stepped into, using my real first name. So I get all that goes with accepting. I really do. It's one thing to say I'm a paranormal investigator. It's a whole nother thing to say I talk to dead people. Like, people
Right.
can almost buy, hi Barbara, the paranormal investigating, but then it's like the next level.
The next
Yes.
level, exactly.
Yes.
That's the big step.
So if it is a huge step. So if people are looking, maybe they want you to come in and investigate or want to learn more about it, they can go on Lucky Paranormal and get in touch with you. What do you do, though? You said, you both have businesses. You're a reflexologist. And so how do they look at some of those holistic options if they want to get in touch with you?
Oh, well, I have a website, Melanie Wills
Okay.
Reflexology. Yeah, in the haunted building.
I love it. So you can investigate and get taken care
do
of
your thing,
all at the
you get
same
that
time.
treatment going.
I love it.
Yeah, and our Lucky Paranormal, we have a group on Facebook, but it's a
Okay.
private group, so you just have to ask to join, and then I'll just approve it, and then you're in.
I love it.
So
I love it. And I hope, everybody that even just looking to educate, because, I love the aspect that you come from and just wanting to educate, wanting to understand. And so many of us have stepped into it for that reason. We want to understand, we want to educate other people. We want to make this less taboo and let people know there's more after this and what that looks like. So I really commend and appreciate both of you for taking those steps to help people understand that.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on the show. We really
and
It's so much fun.
squirrel, I just saw the most hugest, brightest orb go from behind your head and across and over.
Yeah, I ignore those. Somebody had asked me, like, I know,
I
right?
ignore it. I was like, what's going on?
Well, and just like you're sitting at your place and you're like, I hear all these noises, and and people will be like, I'll get a new investigating tool, and they're like, oh, did you try it? I'm like, I'm not turning it on in my house. No, I'll wait till I get where I'm going. So I get it. Like, I completely am on the same plane with understanding, and I know, and I'll have, occasionally one of my kids will be like, mom, you gotta like take care of some stuff in the house. I'm like, fine. Like, can't we just, it's like apartments. They stay on their side, we stay on our side. It'll be okay. But and that's too, like you were saying, people bring things in. I have a lot of antiques. Sometimes they come with friends, and my husband used to laugh at me because I will walk around an antique store with my hands in my pocket, because it's like when I touch something, whoever's with it is like, can I come live with you? I'm like, okay. He's like, stop. But they're not like stray pets. Stop bringing people home. So I get it. I love it. But and Spooky says, being strong in your spirituality is important for many reasons. Self-protection and the ability to educate others is absolutely essential. And I agree with that.
Yeah, me too.
I agree with that. Yeah. Well, I hope, definitely keep us posted. Send me information so I can keep, getting that out to viewers about your upcoming Paracon. That's going to be amazing. I would actually come if I had my passport. I don't have a passport.
Oh, there's your passport.
I know. Even when it was funny, when I was booking for the Paracon in Michigan, I had to be careful because I'm like, oh, that's in Ontario. Like, I won't be able to get to my hotel. I'm like, I should really get a passport.
Yeah.
So I should do that. Then I could come. next time, because there will be a next time. It's going to keep going. So
yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for being here. Please stay in touch. I want to share information. I'm going to look for that private group too, and maybe join you guys in there and just stay in contact. It was so nice to talk to you. Thank you. And I hope, maybe next year we can come back in and see how you guys are doing and where your investigating is going.
Awesome.
That's great. We would love to.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice to meet you in person and then to talk to you again. Have a wonderful night.
You too.
Oh, everybody, I hope you enjoyed talking with Gail and Mel. They are fantastic people. It's so much fun. The private group, Barbara, is Lucky Paranormal. And actually, if you go on to my Facebook page, I had tagged them in there. I believe it says Lucky Paranormal and then Thunder Bay, Ontario, and it's a private group. So if you go back onto the post where I had posted them being guests, you'll be able to find that, and you should be able to click and then join. So I'm very appreciative of everybody who tuned in. I want to tell you about a couple of things we got coming up on the show now. We have an impromptu show next Wednesday. You're welcome, Barbara. As you know, I'm bi-weekly, but I'm actually going to do 3 shows this month. Next week on the 17th, I'm very excited to have my friend and founder of the Wisconsin Caps team, Barnaby Jones, coming on. You guys know Barnaby if you've been around, especially if you are on the Caps page, you know a whole lot about Barnaby. I'm going to catch up with Barnaby, let him tell you all the wonderful and amazing things he has going on and touch base. And for those of you who don't know Barnaby and what he's all about, I want you to be introduced to him and educate, because Barnaby is also huge on educating and helping people understand and responding to people who, what I consider, are in crisis. There's not a lot of places to go when you're dealing with paranormal or cryptids, anomalies, any of that. Where do you go for answers? Where do you go to talk to somebody who's going to listen and not judge? And that's where Barnaby comes in. So I hope you will join me next Wednesday at the same time. Then on the 24th, I'm really excited to have everybody on. I feel like I say that all the time, but I genuinely really appreciate everybody who comes on, and just am so excited for the different conversations. We'll be joined by Craig Sampu Jr., and he is coming on to talk about starseeds. And many of you have probably heard about that. People might say, oh, you're a starseed, or oh, they're a starseed. Do you really know what it means to be a starseed? Do you understand what that energy means, where that comes from? If you've ever wanted to understand, if maybe you're seeking to understand parts of yourself. Do I fall in this? What is this? Is this something that's legitimate? You don't want to miss that show. Craig is very knowledgeable on the topic, and we've been talking about this for probably a year, having him on and just bringing that information. So I think you will really enjoy that. Outside of that, guys, it's just going to be, a year of new beginnings, I think, for a lot of us. Learning and trying new things, growing. It's going to be a year of growing. Oh, thank you so much, Spooky, for coming in. I'm glad you were here for the information and connections and that we were able to provide that. That's my goal. Okay, before you guys go, or before I let you go, let's do a couple cards for the new year, or maybe just for the day. Ooh, they're throwing them all over the place. We're going to do a couple cards, and I am using, once again, I've kind of fallen in love with these soul card decks because, wow, they're all over the place. Because there's no wrong way to interpret them. It's really just what sticks out to you. What are you seeing? You can have the same card come up several times. Hi, Rez. So glad you're here. And get different things. So Spirit has given us 4 cards. So kind of think if there's anything you've wanted guidance on. Maybe you want all 4 cards. Maybe you just want to select 1 or 3, a combination. Whatever floats your boat, it doesn't matter to me. But here are the cards. Interesting. Okay, so in this first card, okay, the first thing I see when I look at this is I really feel like, I don't want to say attachment, but I want to say I feel like dependent, right? I feel like this is somebody that has been dependent, because to me, they just look like they're relying on other energy to come in. They don't look happy. They kind of look lost. They kind of look sad. Forlorn is the word that I hear. And so I feel like if you picked number 1, there are some things you need to look at letting go of. I feel like there have been parts of your life where you may not have set strong enough boundaries or kept your boundaries that have kept you reliant on things outside of where you want to be and really what feeds you. You know, and when I say what feeds us, a lot of us, you know, whether we're friends, spouses, moms, aunts, uncles, we tend to give up pieces of ourselves, right? At certain times because maybe there's something going on and we're trying to be there for somebody, so we're giving up these things. But sometimes we don't reclaim who we are, or we lose parts of who we are. And in that loss, we become reliant on somebody else to fill what we need filled on the inside. And so I feel like what this card is saying is we don't have to be here, right? We don't have to be forlorn. We don't have to be, to me, this picture makes me feel stuck. We don't have to be there. We can do for ourselves, and it's okay to do for ourselves. A lot of times, I think, especially as women, we are taught that we have to give, and we don't give very often to ourselves because then we're being selfish or we're not caring. Okay, and that's a bunch of crap. We have to care for ourselves before we can care for others. If we're not caring for ourselves, eventually we just run out. You know, you can't keep a car going with no fuel in it. And so talking about that self-fueling, talking about setting boundaries, talking about breaking the things that you are dependent on that are not good for your health or where you want to be. Okay, so please start looking at that. Spooky says we have many decks here, but my favorite is Angels and Spirit Guides deck from Carl Gray. Love and light to everyone. I'll have to look into that deck. I don't know that one, Spooky. The next card. Ooh. Releasement. That's what I see when I look at this card. And again, I think, you know, you see this person and you know, coming out, and to me this is releasement. Rick is glaring at me and shaking my med box. That's funny. I like it, Barbara. What do you have to, and this kind of goes in hand almost with the first card. What do you need to release? You know, but when we think about, okay, we need to release, we're again carrying around this baggage, carrying around these things, we have to let go. We have to set things down. But also, there's knowledge in us, right? There's knowledge in knowing what some of those things are we have to set down. There's knowledge in releasing things. There's growth in releasing things and adapting and changing and modifying. It's not always easy. It's not always the easy choice. People, a lot of times you'll hear people saying they feel stuck and they're struggling to make a choice. You're not struggling to make a choice. You know the choice that will make you happy. You're afraid. You're afraid to make the choice. And so knowing what you have to do, knowing there's knowledge in this process, that's a big part of it. And it's okay to be afraid, but we have to build trust within our spirituality, wherever that may lay and whatever that looks for you. You have to build a trust so that you can move through life. We can't live life being scared, and we can't live life carrying everybody else's garbage inside of us. Okay. What's interesting is I see this card like this upside down, and the hands and the face, and I hear reflection when I see this card. And I see reflection, I see looking back, but if you notice, to me, when I'm looking at this and I'm feeling reflection, this looks to me like an adult face, and these look like child hands. I'm seeing these as smaller hands. And in this reflection, this to me is talking about that parent-child wound, those traumas that we carry with us, that maybe not necessarily resonated from our parents, but is a reflection back from where we are now as an adult to our childhood. We tend to carry a lot of those traumas with us. This is a new year. Don't continue to carry all those traumas through. We all carry scars, right? And scars are okay. And it's okay to say, I have this scar because this is what happened to me. But you don't have to live in that trauma of what happened to you and those experiences. And so if card number 3 is a card that you picked, just know that you're coming into a time of self-reflection. Christina, you're the one that got me hooked on this deck because you had it at one of the events, and now I have both. I love them. I have both Soul 1 and Soul 2 decks. But know that you're coming into a time of reflection. You're looking back, whether it's back into this life, back into past lives, but reflection of not carrying those traumas forward with you anymore. Let yourself grow, let yourself move forward. Don't carry that trauma. But it's hard, right? Who wants to look back and feel vulnerable? Sometimes it's easier, put a little foundation on that scar, cover it up. Don't let anybody know that's there. Wear long sleeves, say it's fine. You can only say it's fine for so long. We have to end the stigma of scars. We have to end that negative overview of we have to be perfect. We can't make mistakes. We can't carry trauma. We can't let people know about our trauma. Healing is in the conversations. Healing's in the reflection. Healing's in going back and saying, yes, this happened, feeling it, setting boundaries, setting it down and moving forward. And it's easy to say that. It's all a process, and it's not a quick process, but just know that that's where you're coming to. You're starting that process. And I see, as I'm saying that, the snake shedding its skin, which to me is kind of a rebirth. So just know that that is part of this process. I love it, right? I say rebirth, and I love this. You see the little child, or the inner spirit, whatever you want to call, and then I see this big person and this light, right? And this light coming out, and the light coming out of the hands. And to me, that's growth of knowledge. I'm seeing this in different ways. So we're going to slow it down. So I see this knowledge, right? This is who I was. This is who I'm growing into. Feeling that confidence, letting your light show, standing. And I hate when people say, stand in your power, because what the hell does that mean? Stand in my power. I don't know what that means. I get it. But that's what I'm hearing, which I think is funny because I hate that term. But standing in, this is who I am. This is okay. And perpetuating forward that confidence, knowing that there are people behind you that care about you, knowing it's okay to build your own tribe. Be confident, stand in that collective support. Maybe support's a better word than power, but stand in that and let it grow and let it resonate. And then I also see this coming in as the second thing Spirit showed me was a spirit guide. You have people that are, talking about having abilities, but not wanting to really plug in and take ownership of those abilities. You have that spirit backing. They're there. They're waiting for you to connect. Yes, stand in your truth. Right. That's another one. Stand in your truth. I don't know. My truth is kind of scary, people. I don't know. I'll stand next to my truth. But you have that spirit there. They are ready. When you are ready to plug in and you are ready to say, okay, let's do this. But one thing I have found with a lot of people that sit in the spot where I did for so long and struggling with connecting to their abilities and struggling with plugging in is that trust aspect, right? Because I don't trust a whole lot of living people. And it takes me a long time before I put you on that list of who I trust. So, how are you going to trust somebody that you can't even really see? Right? But you got to trust that energy. You got to build those relationships, allow that trust, and know that spirit's there. We might not like everything that spirit takes us to or through or the lessons. We have to trust the process, which it sucks sometimes. But when you look at that bigger picture, even looking back now for myself, where I am, the traumas that I came through to be who I am, it's all part of the journey. And sometimes that ugly makes it all the more beautiful when you get here. I am so glad that you guys have tuned in. Hello, Chrissy. It's so nice that you tuned in. I am just hopping off, actually, but you can catch us next Wednesday for an impromptu show with Barnaby Jones and the following Wednesday. So I hope you will hop on. And as always, I have a Podbean channel. You can download and listen to me later, which I hope you do. Share the news. Let's help get people educated. If there are any topics that you want me to talk about, guests you would like me to try to have on, please shoot me an email at stephanielynspiritsensitive@gmail.com or reach out on Facebook or YouTube. I appreciate all of you. I wish you well, and I will talk to you all soon. See you next week.